First of all, yeah, you already all seen a preview of Prescan in the slides of my predecessor. All the animations you saw were made with Prescan. So I'm going to go a little bit more into depth. The presentation will only be 15 minutes, also not to take away a lot of time from lunch. If you want to know more, I'll be available the whole day for further questions, demonstrations, ID development, etc. So Prescan, what is Prescan? Prescan's use is best explained by just an example. Suppose we have a real-world scenario. In this case, it's a real-world accident. In this area, in a couple of seconds, an accident is going to take place. There it is. So if you look at this as an automotive engineer, or as any other engineer, you might have a couple of questions. What caused the accident? What system could have prevented it? What sensors, what algorithms, what actuators? How robust is the system? If I change in the rain, does it still work? What are its side effects? So in other scenarios, how does it behave? What are alternative designs, etc., etc., etc. Prescan is a tool that provides these answers, all in a quick, cheap, and safe manner, because it's simulation. So a first step might be to model this same accident in Prescan. All the irrelevant actors are left out, so we have only the relevant actors that are involved in the accident, and you'll see that the same accident will take place. In Prescan, what you can easily do is put cameras everywhere, for example in one of the cars that was involved in the accident. And here you can also see what the problem was here, namely obstructed view, because of the lineup of cars, the driver didn't see the car come. And in Prescan, then you immediately think of a solution, namely car-to-car communication. Line of sight sensors such as radar, laser, camera wouldn't work here, because if the driver doesn't see the car coming, yeah, a laser, radar, or camera also won't see it. So car-to-car communication, implemented here as every car communicates its intention to all the other cars, and you see the accident is avoided. Of course, in Prescan you could work with line of sight sensors. For example, in a pre-crash system, probably the accident will not be avoided, but the impact speed will be reduced. Now let's move from a specific example to the generic. What is Prescan? Prescan is the software package for developing intelligent vehicle systems. And let me zoom in on a couple of words in this definition in order to explain a little bit more. Intelligent vehicle systems, also sometimes called active safety systems, driver support systems, driver assistance systems, ITS applications. Obviously the corporate systems that we're talking about today are included in this definition. Then the word developing, it's a very broad term. In my view, it includes designing, evaluation, benchmarking, verifying, validating. So all these activities can be supported by Prescan. Then the word software package. Prescan is not some experimental environment that runs on a couple of PCs here at TNO. It's a real commercial product. I brought a copy with me. So it comes in a big box. It's just a CD. And for our next release, a DVD because it's becoming too large. You put it in your computer, you install it, and it just works. There's a thick manual to it with explanations of each feature and a lot of demo experiments. Finally, the word D. Prescan is unique. There are no similar tools on the market. So how does Prescan work? Well, basically working with Prescan takes 4 steps. First you build a scenario, then you model your sensors, you add a control system, and you run your experiment. And of course, after running your experiment, you can go back to each of the previous steps to adapt parameters and run it again. Now very briefly, a little bit of explanation about each step. We have a scenario builder with a large library of configurable elements, roads, trees, buildings, houses, all kinds of vehicles, trucks, pedestrians, cyclists. You can also import your own elements, for example from Google SketchUp. It's a big library, millions of 3D models available. You can just download it, put them in Prescan, and so rebuild maybe part of your own city. You can define maneuvers, and last but not least, there's a very user-friendly interface. You also see that during the demonstration that we'll give in a couple of minutes. Then you have your scenario, or typically something happens in that scenario, either an accident or a traffic jam. So at least something you want to solve. You add sensors to the scenario. The standardly available sensors are radar, laser, camera, antennas, and infrared beacons onboard units for car-to-car, car-to-infrastructure communication, and GPS receivers. Then you go to a MATLAB Simulink. Who of you is familiar with MATLAB Simulink? Okay, vast majority, so that's good. The sensor outputs and also some other things are available in MATLAB Simulink, so you can use that to model your algorithms for sensor data processing, sensor fusion, control algorithms, and this Simulink interface also helps you to reuse your existing Simulink models, for example, vehicle dynamics models. Something I want to mention is that we're currently working on a Java environment that replaces this MATLAB Simulink environment. Well, it's optional, let's put it that way. So you can either add your controllers with MATLAB Simulink, or you can choose to do this in Java. Finally, you run your experiment, you just push the button simulate, and the experiment will just run. You can do a data acquisition with MATLAB. Test automation is possible. You see DSpace interface and National Instruments, lab view. And you also see here a steering wheel and pedal set. Just a simple game wheel that you can buy in the shop that provides simple driving simulator functionality. So you can drive around yourself in Prescan. Well, I'll start my presentation with an example. Before we go to the demonstration, another short example about developing a concept for cooperative driving. I have here a line of 7 cars. They're all equipped with ACC. The radar sensor measures the distance to the preceding vehicle only. And the headway time is very short for an ACC, 0.3 seconds. And what you'll then see when I run the simulation is that the string will become unstable. The first vehicle in line has a certain speed profile, and that is more or less amplified downstream until finally a collision takes place between the 6th and the 7th vehicle. Unstable. Now we add car-to-car communication. So the radar still measures the distance to the preceding vehicle, but also the first vehicle communicates its acceleration downstream. The headway time is still 0.3 seconds, and when we run the simulation, you see that every vehicle exactly follows the speed profile of the, what is the acceleration profile? Here's the speed profile of the first vehicle. So this is a stable system. Now come to the demonstration. I'll keep it very short, just 2 or 3 minutes, just to give you a taste of what it is to work with Prescan. And during the demonstration you'll see 3 elements. You see the user interface. I use that to build a scenario and to model the sensor systems. You see the MATLAB Simulink interface. I use that to add a control system and run my experiment. And last but not least, you see the 3D visualization viewer. So this allows us all to actually see what happens in the scenario.